Stan Jabalisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1GV Whiskey 1, Good Vibrations. I might have told you this story before. I've kind of lost track, but I guess it wouldn't hurt to tell it again because I think it's a pretty good story. In 1979, I worked in the editorial department, or the technical department, at ARRL, American Radio Relay League, headquarters in Newington, Connecticut, alongside a colleague named Jim, who was also a radio ham and also worked in the technical department. And we got it into our heads that we'd like to build a 10-meter Yagi by trimming down a CB, Citizens Band, 11-meter Yagi to about 99% of its proportions, original proportions. A 3-element 11-meter Yagi thus became a 3-element 10-meter Yagi, and my landlord was kind enough to let me install it on the roof of a 3-story house which served as my home, an apartment building. In that home there were 6 apartments. I was on the top floor and facing south and west, and I put that antenna up there with Jim to help me on that steep roof with a television rotator, and I had a 3-element 10-meter Yagi and my Drake 4-line R4A, T4X, and I ran QRP by using a watt meter to measure the power output and crank it down to only 3 watts RF output power on 10 meters. I worked a lot of stations with that 3 watts, surprisingly, but the most impressive and the one that sticks in my memory the most was the contact I made with a station in New Zealand, practically on the other side of the globe, the opposite side of the globe, just about as far away as you can get. 3 watts CW on 10 meters, and the guy gave me a 579 signal report. I'll never forget that contact. I'll never forget that apartment either. The floor kind of sloped. The house was beginning to succumb to earth movement, and it was an old house in West Hartford, Connecticut. A charming old house on a main drag in West Hartford. That was just before I decided that the winters in Connecticut did not suit me, and moreover I wanted to move to Miami, and I took a job in Miami, Florida. And I missed Connecticut almost from day one. And I missed that little QRP station, although there was nothing to stop me from running QRP in Miami. I lived in a guest house in a little part of Miami called Perrine, south of Miami, and put a vertical on a fence. I think it was a 40-meter vertical, full-size 40-meter ground plane. And I worked some pretty impressive DX with that, but not with 3 watts. I guess I just didn't want to be public enemy number 1 and cause QRM to the stereo users in my apartment building in West Hartford, and 3 watts just wasn't enough to do that. But it was enough to produce a 579 signal in New Zealand on the 28 megahertz CW band. Do you have a good story that you can tell? Something along those lines? What's one of the coolest contacts you've ever made? I guess QRP would help, but one of the coolest, most unexpected contacts you've ever made. Tell us all about it. Stan Jabalisco signing off, saying 73 and so long, which, no matter what the power level, no matter what the frequency, in my native fist, has now, shall then, and shall forever never after translate to da-da-da-da-da-da.